There was a time when American cars were rolling showcases of imagination. Chrome sparkled, dashboards hid clever tricks, and every ride had its quirks. You hit the brights with your foot, cracked a vent window for a breeze, slid an 8-track into the dash with a heavy clunk, even flipped down the license plate to fill the tank. Most of those features are gone, regulated, redesigned, or simply forgotten. But for those who grew up with them, they were unforgettable. Today, we're bringing back 10 vanished car innovations only true Americans remember. Number 10. Hidden gas caps behind the license plate. For a whole generation, filling up meant flipping down the license plate. GM and Mopar tucked the gas cap behind the rear plate, out of sight, out of mind, and perfectly balanced on the back bumper. It was a neat little trick. No unsightly cap breaking up the body lines, no guessing which side of the car to pull up at the pump. Kids thought it was magic the first time they saw Dad hinge the plate and stick the nozzle in. But convenience came with costs. Gas fumes lingered in the trunk cavity, and rear-end accidents could turn dangerous fast. As safety standards tightened in the late 70s, the hidden fill-up quietly disappeared. Today, it survives only in memory, and in the stories of drivers who remember the satisfying click of that plate swinging back into place. Number 9. Fender skirts. For decades, nothing said streamlined like a set of fender skirts. Those smooth panels covered the rear wheels, giving cars from the 40s through the 60s a longer, lower, almost futuristic look. You'd spot them on Buicks, Cadillacs and Chevys cruising down Main Street, rolling sculptures of chrome and steel. They made even a family sedan look like it belonged on a rocket runway. But while the style turned heads, it had its drawbacks. Changing a tyre meant wrestling with panels first, and as designs shifted to sharper lines and open-wheel arches, skirts looked dated overnight. By the 1980s, they were almost completely gone, left behind with tail fins and drive-in theatres. Still, ask anyone who remembers, and they'll tell you, nothing looked quite as cool as a car with skirts hugging its wheels. Number 8. Foot-operated high-beam switch. Long before stalks sprouted from steering columns, high beams lived on the floor. A little metal button sat under your left foot. Tap once for brights, tap again to dim. It was simple, rugged, and fast. Drivers never took their hands off the wheel, and muscle memory made the motion automatic. You could hear the soft click beneath your boot as the road lit up ahead. But as cars grew more complex, the foot switch became a casualty of design. Wiring harnesses, safety standards, and the need for extra pedals pushed controls onto the column. By the late 80s, almost no new cars had them. Ask an old-timer today, though, and they'll smile, because nothing felt quite as satisfying as stomping the brights on with your heel. Number 7. Wing vent windows. Before air conditioning took over, every car came with a built-in breeze. A small triangular pane of glass, hinged at the front, swung open to funnel air straight into the cabin. On summer drives, you could angle it just right. Cool air rushed across your face without the roar of a fully rolled down window. Smokers used it as the perfect ash dump, and kids loved fiddling with the chrome latch. They were practical, stylish, and uniquely American. But as aerodynamics improved and air conditioning became standard, vent windows turned into noisemakers and leak points. By the 1990s, they were gone from new cars. Still, anyone who's ever felt that perfect cross breeze knows the loss. Vent windows weren't just glass, they were freedom in a hinge. Number 6. Factory 8-track stereos. For a stretch in the late 60s and 70s, the sound of America was locked inside a plastic cartridge. Slide an 8-track into the dash, and with a heavy clunk the music rolled, loud, imperfect, and unforgettable. Every road trip had its soundtrack. Eagles, Skynerd, Fleetwood Mac, endless loops that sometimes switched tracks right in the middle of a song. Kids in the back seat knew the feeling of snapping a tape in and out, hoping it didn't jam. The 8-track was short-lived but iconic. By the early 80s, cassettes pushed in with better portability and fewer skips. Soon after, CDs took the crown. But for those who remember, nothing feels quite as American as hitting the highway, with an 8-track crackling through the speakers, turning a car into a jukebox on wheels. Let's pause for a second. Out of all these vanished car features so far, which one do you miss the most? Drop your answer down in the comments, and while you're at it, let us know where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see the stories and memories you share. Number 5. Cigarette lighters and ashtrays as standard. For decades, every car came with a full smoker's kit built in. A spring-loaded lighter in the dash, ashtrays in every door, and sometimes even fold-out trays for the back seat. It wasn't just convenience, it was culture. Parents lit up on family trips, teenagers smoked with the windows cracked, and no one thought twice about flicking ashes into a chrome tray. The smell of warm tobacco and burning paper mixed with vinyl and gasoline, that was the aroma of the American highway. By the 1990s, smoking bans and shifting habits made the package obsolete. Lighters became 12-volt outlets, ashtrays turned into cup holders, and new generations grew up without ever seeing a glowing coil pop out of a dashboard. Still, for anyone who remembers, that little push-button lighter was more than a gadget. It was a ritual of the road. Number 4. T-top roofs. In the late 70s and 80s, nothing felt cooler than popping out a pair of glass panels and driving under open sky. The T-top promised convertible freedom without the flapping canvas, and cars like the Corvette, Firebird and 280ZX wore them like badges of honour. Sliding those panels into their storage bags was a ritual. Sun on your face, wind in your hair, music blasting, it felt like the future of driving. For a while, it was the future. But reality crept in. The seals leaked, wind noise was constant, and rollover safety standards made the design harder to justify. By the 2000s, the T-top had all but vanished. Still, in the memory of anyone who cruised down a summer highway with the glass out, it remains the ultimate symbol of an era when style beat practicality. Number 3. Front bench seats and column shifters. Once upon a time, the front seat wasn't just for driving, it was for sharing. A wide bench stretched across the cabin, with room for 3 across. Couples could sit shoulder to shoulder, kids could squeeze in the middle, and date nights often meant sliding right up next to the driver. The shifter. It lived on the steering column. Simple, out of the way, leaving the floor wide open. It was practical, spacious, and undeniably American. But as cars shrank and safety demands grew, the bench seat disappeared. Buckets, consoles, airbags, and cup holders took over. By the 90s, you only saw benches in pickups, not in sedans or coupes. For those who remember, though, the bench wasn't just a seat. It was part of the story, of first kisses, long talks, and family rides that no center console could ever replace. Number 2. Hood ornaments and stand-up emblems. For decades, American cars carried mascots right on their noses. Chrome goddesses, soaring birds, spears, and crests, all pointing the way forward like symbols of pride. Cadillac had its crown and crest, Pontiac its silver streak, and Lincoln its standing star. These ornaments weren't just decoration, they were identity. Drivers lined up the emblem with the road ahead, guiding their way like a sight on the horizon. But the shine didn't last. Rising theft, pedestrian safety laws, and wind tunnel aerodynamics pushed automakers to strip them away. By the 90s, hood ornaments were flattened into badges, losing the depth and shine that once defined a car's face. Still, for anyone who remembers, nothing said elegance like a polished emblem glinting at the edge of the hood, leading the way mile after mile. Number 1. Pop-up headlights. Few features ever had as much personality as pop-up headlights. At dusk, with the flick of a switch, cars seemed to wink, lamps rising smoothly from hidden housings, turning an ordinary coupe into something alive. From Corvettes and Celicas to Miatas and Fieros, pop-ups defined cool in the 70s, 80s, and even into the early 90s. They gave cars a face, sleek by day, bright-eyed by night. But they weren't built to last. Motors failed, laws tightened on pedestrian safety, and aerodynamics demanded cleaner lines. By the 2000s, the pop-up headlight was gone from showrooms. Still, ask any car enthusiast and they'll tell you, few things felt as thrilling as pulling into the dark, flipping a switch, and watching your headlights rise like a curtain on the open road.